Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 8th of November to the 15th of November. I love not having videos that are not good. It's a nice time. Let's go over some videos that I thought were decent. They're pretty good. I don't know what to do with my hands. Anyway, I got emailed. I got actually Gmail emailed this video by this guy Risu. I wasn't subscribed to him, but I did now, and he had very small subscriber base, but that's fine. And came back to this first video after kind of a longer hiatus, and then like a video like I'm coming back, and then another hiatus. classic YouTube. It happens, dude. It's totally fine. But I think this is the first video I've watched of his. But it's about Akikon. The video is just called Pokekon Akikon, which I think it's supposed to be just like, oh, it's like Pokemon, but he doesn't reference Pokemon at all in the video. I think it's just sort of like, oh, video title. That's okay. I feel that right here. God, fuck video titles, dude. Oh my God. Now, and I thought it had good energy. He wanted feedback on it, obviously. So I was like, yeah, sure. But I thought this had really good energy, particularly at the beginning. It felt like it wasn't scripted at all, which is nice. And I think you had the kind of like this really casual, snarky, very, yeah, I think I said casual, like really kind of approachable type of content. And like a lot of, I think there's a lot of anime YouTubers in general that have this kind of I guess veneer to it, and the method of editing here too, with a lot, it's very Korwa Eden, except Eden has practiced a lot, and watching an Eden video next to this one, it's very primitive in comparison, but that's okay. Like clearly, you just haven't made that many videos, and that's fine. I think I enjoyed the beginning of the video the most, where it felt very personable and like, I made a video, and like feeling very obviously rusty, I guess. I think it was actually pretty charming. And then I felt like when you got to the actual talking about it, I liked the editing that was in places here, with like the way you did the title cards is very zany and different and surprising and fun. I love that kind of humor. I'm a big sucker for YouTube poops, so it had that kind of YouTube poop energy. I love the very beginning of the video, like spoilers, I guess, with like I feel like you probably didn't make that video, but like that's fine. Like using that meme, those sorts of memes and things like that is always very fun. Those had like the best energy, and then I felt like the rest, like the majority of the video, really felt like you were locked to a script and you're reading a script, and you may like either ran out of steam for editing or couldn't come up with other things or weren't having as much fun, and it was just like your avatar in the middle with some the footage in the background with very prevalent hard subbed Kiss anime watermark and blown up a little bit with but it doesn't, and the delivery itself feels very forced, and you're kind of going through the motions, like this is what I have to do to make a video. And that's fine. I understand that. I didn't think it was awful or unwatchable. Some people might be more harsh. Like some of my YouTube friends or whatever. That'd be funny. No, but I honestly, I get it, and I think all of us have been in this phase before of like, this is what I have to say, and this is like the review. It's a review for this show, really, and I personally liked it every time that you seemed to break away from that, and it seemed a little more personable and from you, I guess. I don't know if I would outright say you should do these without scripts or something like that, right? But I would encourage you to like think about doing this without scripts. No, I mean, no, I think it's just, I don't know how, I'm certainly not comfortable with that. Oh my God. Like I can't bring myself to do that myself, but I think that like if you have more fun making the and like doing these little edits, like the way you move your avatar in the beginning and having fun with the editing process, like I can tell that it's infectious in that way, and that's why I liked the beginning of the video more. And I think that ends up what ends up happening is the joy in the editing thing kind of ran out of steam throughout the rest of the video, and it doesn't have as much playful editing in the same way. Fair. And so it's tough then, where you have to find those things when making a video. You have to find those things like, I like this part of the video, and this part not as much, but it's the bridge to get to this other really good part that I like, and things like that. Finding the pace and the structure of the whole video is certainly a challenge, and I encourage you to keep trying it. Yeah, I didn't get too much out of the actual meat of like talking about the plot and the characters and things like that, especially because like this does seem kind of like a whatever show. I thought you spent the majority of it on the characters. It was kind of weird that you broke it into like a regular Mal review or whatever, like plot, characters, but then like just kind of did like 30 seconds on the plot and then 4 minutes like out of the 6-minute video, which is like 4 is not a lot, but in grand scheme of things, but like the bulk of the video just describing the characters and what each of them do, basically. I don't feel like I got as much of a sense of this show when you're just kind of rigidly doing that. I think I would encourage you to kind of like just talk about your experience watching it. Like, this was a weird moment. I thought these things going through it, even if it's not in an organized, structured way, where it's like, oh, I'm talking about the art and animation in this section, which you don't do, and not like a big crime to not talk about like I'm not gonna knock points or something, but like it was weird when it's like, oh, okay, this is a review for this show, and then you don't talk about that at all. It was just like, oh, all right. But like, I encourage you to just mix up the formula a bit. I understand, still you can still script it and have like, you know what I mean? But you ever have those moments? I don't know how often you've been recording videos. I've started to have this in my own video making, where I have the script and I'm reading it out, and as I'm looking at it, I'm like, I have to put something else here, and I don't stop. I just think for a second, and then I say the thing, and it's unscripted in that way, right? And so there's a bit of a mix there, and it kind of adds to the overall video, I guess. And maybe that was what it was like for the beginning section, where you're introducing yourself and like easing your way into the video itself. Maybe that was unscripted or something. And again, unscripted stuff doesn't always work out well. This is a prime example, in my opinion, at least. It's sort of a gamble, but yeah, I encourage you to try that. But I'm happy you sent this my way, and hope that feedback was interesting or insightful for you, and at least encouraging to keep trying. And you guys, like, this guy has like less than 50 subs, so go check him out if that kind of humor, like Eden's or I guess Smug, or other such like that, if that interests you. Yeah. Now, speaking of all those guys, I checked out the podcast for Spilling the Milk. They're doing it like they have the main channel, and then they have the clips, and then they have this one. Then they're doing a pod, like, gotta start the machine going while they have this momentum, which is great. It's awesome. But yeah, High Guardian Spice ruined our lives. They don't really talk about the experience of watching it. Really, they don't really refer to that. I think this is just sort of, it felt a little bit like Best Guy Ever's. I forget the name of the podcast. It's not Procrastinators, but it's the one that he did recently that Jack was featured on, and I talked about it in a previous digest. But it kind of felt similar to that, where it's very plot, like wrote down a list of topics and then maybe riffed on them for a little bit. But I really appreciated the very caustic and abrasive energy at the very beginning, like for the first half. I would say maybe half or 2/3 of this whole thing was very much bickering, talking over each other, openly saying they don't want to be on this podcast, which was like weird to me, right? But at the same time, I get that, like, I think Jack is being facetious a lot of the time, and that's just the humor, I guess. Which, like, yeah, I've been there, so I get that. No, but I just thought it was actually kind of refreshing, honestly, and it felt like a more elevated, like, clearly this is being recorded for a podcast type of thing, elevated to that degree, but it more or less felt similar to the Discord calls that we'd have back in the day. You were talking about, like, the thing, like, about the server and stuff that we go in there, and we don't. Maybe you guys I check in at weird times and stuff, but I don't think it seemed to have died, unfortunately. It's too bad. It is what it is. The passage of time, I suppose. But yeah, it's too bad. We don't talk as often in there anymore. Maybe there's a different server. There was one, yeah, I liked all the topics they talked about, and I don't know, I don't have too much else to say about it. I just thought it was very novel with how abrasive and like commotion it felt for that first half, and then when they were talking about like about the actual channel and like their history and stuff, and then their future plans and things like that, it got a lot more chill. Like they kind of calmed down and like they ran out of they got all that uncomfortable awkwardness out of it, and they just kind of like settled into conversation and things like that. So that was nice. But no, I enjoyed the talk and the conversation. I thought it was good, and yeah. I don't know how consistent it'll be, but we'll see. I think it was fun. So there was this Anime Limited Christmas showcase. It's basically kind of like a Nintendo Direct type of thing for anime for this UK based licensor distributor, and they have a number of titles here, including a 4K release of Belladonna of Sadness, which is sick, and I'm so happy and excited for that. I'll probably import that or something. I don't know. That's freaking awesome. Love that. But I wanted to I wanted to point out, because like, oh, they don't upload too often, and the thumbnail was certainly interesting. It was this like a cooking show type of thing, and it's really weird. It's interesting. It was this is basically structured like it has this opening skit of imitating a baking show, but it's for Blu-rays, and it kind of doesn't feel like it goes anywhere. The thing I wanted to say about this is that it's a bunch of people who aren't normally content creators making content, like making their own videos. And it's like, oh, I could do that. And it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed, but like I just thought it was kind of charming, honestly. It's certainly like I've been there, like getting on your knees, like filming for a shot or whatever, and it's weird. It's not easy doing this sort of thing. I can't blame. Some of them turn out pretty good. The guy who announced the El Hazard OVAs, that felt very inspired. That felt very like, he's talking with an alternate persona of himself, and it has all the wall of media behind him. It felt very like he's done this before. There were some others that like had some B footage and things like that, but other people, they just kind of recorded off of whatever webcam they had, and very 4:3 aspect ratio and not great video quality and things like that, or in front of their computer and things like that. Some of them very clearly like looking off of a script and certain things, but like otherwise I thought it was kind of surprising and kind of an engaging way of doing it, and it's not like super professional, but like that's okay. Like even I've graded ones like with I've not graded, I don't grade shit in this, whatever, but like I've talked about previous videos like this, like Sentai's version, and Funimation did something like this, and I was really underwhelmed by a lot of the way, even with how professionally aesthetically the video is. I actually am kind of enamored with how earnest this comes off. And also, the announcements are pretty good. They have a fair deal of variety. It seems like they're all centered around kind of more limited edition stuff. Or like, very, I don't know, particular releases, I guess. It didn't have a lot of like, I was watching it, I'm like, oh my god, Discotek does it way better. Like, obviously I'm biased, okay. But at the same time, no, not really. I'm not biased. Like it's very simplistic what we do. It's a live stream. The VODs aren't really, I don't think the VODs are ever really saved, but it's a PowerPoint. It's just a PowerPoint, and they just go slide by slide, and then they actually show trailers, and it actually feels like reveals, and it actually feels like, oh my god, they got that, they licensed that. It feels like a genuine direct. They're recapturing this direct moment and stuff, and like the excitement of getting a 4K release of Cardcaptor Sakura. Like, that's sick. Like, that's really cool. And I'm very happy that they actually showed comparison footage for Cardcaptor Sakura. They didn't show any footage for anything else. Nothing else. And they it's just the person on screen having to describe the plot, and I'm like, you don't have to do that. Just show the thing, and then talk about where you're gonna what kind of release you're putting it. When are you when is this coming out and stuff like that. What other releases are you doing? What other like features might it have or whatever. You know, you kind of I don't know. It's not paced the way I would prefer it. But I don't want to put this like a not good or anything, because I did enjoy it. I think it was surprising and kind of entertaining in a home DIY type of thing. Seeing a bunch of kind of like people who work at this company who aren't like front facing, including their CEO. I actually was like really happy to see their CEO presenting some of these titles. I thought that was really cool, and also just that they talk about it in a way that's like, oh, I actually really like this OVA. I actually really liked for this and this or whatever, and describing it in that way. I thought that's also kind of nice. It didn't feel soulless in that way. Anyway, I mean, it is kind of clunky and like, you know, awkward in places. But I ultimately kind of applaud the result. Yeah, I thought it was pretty fun. And I'm very excited for the releases they have, particularly Belladonna. Oh my gosh, what a good release! What a good get! And the Cardcaptor thing was also pretty cool. Yeah, Sloan The Otaku. Doing another React video, and I guess I'm reviewing this again, like another. But I don't know. It's something particularly with her choices of what she decides to react to, I guess, is just what's appealing. And when I'm like, oh, I'll click on it, I'm interested, and then I find things that I want to end up talking about. So she's watching Sailor Moon for the first time, and yeah, she hadn't seen any of it, but like I like that she had like some recollection. It's like, oh, it's Tuxedo Mask, and she knows the memes and things like that. But I thought the observations were pretty insightful, and then she also had it's also nice that she had a good time. You know, it felt like she was really enjoying herself, and like it didn't feel forced at all. It actually felt kind of like, oh, you know, like a good reaction type of content, you know, and also like you're making the right choices with what to cut, what to show in terms of reaction content. It's not boring, like just stone face, you know what I mean? Yeah. Although she said that like she's gonna skip the filler. No, watch the show. If you're really sensitive about that, watch Crystal. You know what I mean? But she doesn't want. She's like, I don't want to watch Crystal because it just looks kind of jank, which is fair. Although I think I could be. I'm not like a Sailor Moon buff or anything like that. But it seems to me that Crystal is actually more authentic to the character designs of the manga, and then Toei's like the thing with like the Toei character design, like it was the manga and the anime were released pretty much simultaneously. Like they were kind of like it's like a Mazinger Z situation, or you know, like these properties where like the manga and anime kind of go on together, media mix as it goes. But then like Toei is coming from like that particular character designer. I don't know if it's the same one as Goldfish Warning, but like it's pretty much the same staff as Goldfish Warning, and that's like it's really Goldfish Warning is if I just look up Goldfish Warning and then I look at the character designer for that and see if they're the same as Sailor Moon. It's got a lot of good staff on it, but also like the method of comedy and the way that an episode feels and the comedy and things like that is very similar to that show, to Sailor Moon, I mean. And that's where a lot of that comes from. And I think part of why it was so successful. The show is what's really successful, and like the manga's good and like it has fans, right? But like think about it. Who like did they come across the manga first, or did they come across the anime first? And did they become fans of the anime first before they became fans? You know what I mean? I think there is something to be said about the actual anime, even if it's not adapting the manga chapter by chapter. It is really fun, and it's a good show. I would recommend you watching the whole thing, and you don't need to skip around. Like, come on, it's not the kind of show you need. Like, it'd be like skipping around Urusei Yatsura, which like you can. It's episodic. Like that's no harm in that technically, but like watch all of it. It's great. It's especially if you like it. She seemed to really like the first episode, so I was like, why would you skip episodes then? Like, and also 200 episodes. It's the original's 42. If you just watch the original and then you want to watch more, just watch more. You know what I mean? I don't know. That I guess is just a difference in philosophy. I shouldn't be so hard on it. For some reason, the character designer doesn't come up on Goldfish Morning. What the hell? Whatever. I'm not sure if it's the same one, but it feels similar. Anyway, but at least the way that the characters' faces like are very elastic in that way. It's very similar in that way. Anyway, no, I just enjoyed the reaction, enjoyed the video. Yeah, it was a good time. Yeah, checked out this ProfessorViral video on Lane. Lane's perfect design, and it's talking about the character design, but you kind of more talking about the show as a whole a little bit. And it's interesting that you preface at the beginning that like I haven't formulated an entire. It's like I haven't fully gotten it. Like I fully got Lane in the same way. Although it seems like you are attempting that in this discussion, this type of analysis video, trying to focus on Lane's design, which to me, there may be just a difference in philosophy here when it comes to character design. But like to me, when I think of character design, I'm not just thinking about the clothing, which is what you seem to focus on the most, I think. And it's like, it's what they're wearing and stuff. Well, it's just a face. But like, how are they drawing the eyes? How are they why is Lane's hair like that, perhaps? And kind of digging into that a little bit, I would have liked to see that more. And then of course character design doesn't just apply to Lane, it can also apply to a lot of other, the characters in general. A lot of the characters' eyes all are drawn in a similar way, and how do they differ maybe. I would have preferred something a little more technical, and like obviously you don't have to be like an art, I'm not looking for art major stuff or something like that. I'm certainly not something like that, but I think like really focusing just on those things, and because I felt like it ended up opening the door to like Lane discussion in general. It just kind of felt like talking about Lane and analyzing certain shots, like, this shot of her covered in wires, but she's not always like that, right? It's a gradual process, and I think it could have been more specific, like this moment in episode where she, the first time she is in this all white outfit, which is representing purity. And I think there are certain things that I do think that I'm not saying you aren't analyzing the character design. But I do think there's things that you're missing that I would have liked to have seen personally. And that's just someone that like, if you're going to make a whole video on this, is something I would have wanted to see. Like, I mean, I am basically saying, no discussion of the bear outfit, 0 out of 10. I'm not. It's funny. No, I mean, like, I would have liked to hear a little bit of like, she's wearing this particular thing in these moments when she's just trying to be herself. Like she's just trying to like close off and be herself. I don't know. Like focusing a little more on the brass tacks of like what she's wearing episode to episode and stuff like that. Maybe like the school outfits and stuff. Of how muted and kind of fall color, like because it can actually, I don't know, a little thing. But so it's hard for me to like point out things that I did like, because of like, I liked when you mentioned this. I do. Okay, the one thing I do remember is your comparison with her design with the maestro, like the kind of the scientist that gets trapped in there, like the god. He's with his like face, you describing that and the parallels between the two, that was cool. And it all, all the actual discussion seemed fair and interesting. I was just I think I was just distracted the whole time of like, but look at her, like the difference in eyes, where like a lot of her shots where she's very open and crazy, and she's sort of like in the wire and stuff like that. Like when this show has a very particular thing with pupils. I think it's the blacks of the eyes, I think, is called the pupil. Or that's the iris is the colored part, and then the pupil is the black part. There's this really cool thing where like it's very, very tiny in a lot of the shots, and then there's other shots where it's very wide open and stuff. So you kind of it felt to me that like Lane was actually had her iris super widened and kind of, is the word dilated? I don't remember. Again, this is off script. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to like poke holes and correct you or anything like that. I'm just like, I would have wanted more, or would have wanted this different kind of analysis. And I get that it's not the best approach with talking about a video of like, I would have preferred if it was a completely different video. Although I am set up to think those, I was personally set up to think those things when it says perfect design, and then you're talking about how like, you know, we're going to talk about her character design, even though you don't have much experience in it. I will say that's great that you actually like, you know, confess that, but still give it a shot. You know, I think a lot of people, if they, oh, I'm not like a music guy, I'm not even going to try. You know what I mean? I think Jeff's actually like that, where he often with his what's an OP analysis, he always and he doesn't so much in this next one. He did put out an OP video this week, but he admits in that video too that he's not like a big music guy. So he mostly focuses on the visuals, and that's what he does. And that's fine to admit like strengths and weaknesses and things. But I am happy that you went out of your way to make this kind of video. And I thought the analysis was still sounded interesting. I was just personally distracted by like, you should talk about this and this, yeah, or the way I probably would have gone about it, which is rare for me. I personally think with Digest, I try not to like make a bit of like what I would have done type of, because it's not really about me, right? I'm not you. It's like, well, I'll just do it you know, it's just dumb if I talk in those terms. But yeah, I guess that's just like the thing that I was taking away from this video is like, I would have liked to see this sort of thing, or diving a little deeper into that. But that's fine. I still liked it. I'm looking forward to the bigger lane video that you have in mind here. That'll be fun. Yeah, it's good. Anime Man had a Skelter Heaven is the worst anime ever made, and I was surprised he hasn't done this before. he hasn't talked about this anime. Like it's kind of the obvious beater horse. Yeah, Skelter Heaven is kind of is famously, it seems, at least right now, at least as the last time I'm aware of, it is the lowest rated anime on Mal. High honor. Despite the NAs, there's a lot of not rated stuff. The highest one that's actually rated, I guess it's got to be one, right? And you know, I actually wanted to talk about this because I thought the approach was interesting. He is going into this similar to Bennett the Sage, where he's kind of describing it plot beat by plot beat and reacting to certain things, but he takes it much more of a reactor type of thing, and he's not trying to like skewer it the same. So he's really kind of having this nice balance between negatively skewed content like Bennett the Sage, where he's presenting it in a kind of like formal way. He's like talking, here, watch this clip or whatever, right? And giving you all like a plethora of examples. But then the actual meat and substance of it is him kind of like riffing on it and reacting to it and like trying to recreate a lot of the baffling moments that he found in it, and you know, showcasing that in this video in that way, particularly a lot of the transitions, in a sort of reacting kind of like silly kind of way. And I actually really like the framing he did here. It seems kind of obvious and very old school maybe, but it seemed, but at the same time it actually was kind of novel compared to all the other stuff I've seen on anime YouTube, right? Where he's actually like in front of a TV, and they edit, like the TV is like, you know, it's blank, but like there's a green screen, you know, not a green screen, but like they're clearly fitting in footage onto the TV. And he's turning over he's turning over his shoulders like, oh, watch the clip, you're gonna see this, or watch the clip, like you're watching it with him almost. And that seems so obvious, or just like old, like angry video game nerd or something. But at the same time, no, I don't know really anybody that's done this. It's actually kind of cool. I actually kind of dug it. And then, you know, he actually changes set pretty much. He has his main set with the books behind him that he talks about in the same way to introduce all his videos. But then he actually moves to a different room, and he's talking at like, you know, in a kind of a quarter angle and stuff like that, and riffing in front of it. It's like, oh, you're gonna watch this. I felt like it was a little, you could tell that this was different for him and kind of feeling out a new series. And he calls this a new series of, I forget what he calls it, but hold on, I'm not gonna, I forget what he calls it, but this is very clearly like a new series, and I would recommend keeping this up. I think this is actually kind of cool. And I also think it was a good I also think it was a good conclusion at the end, where he's like, "Oh, so bad it's good," and kind of like not really leaving it on a sour note. I think he was like, "Actually, that was pretty fun," and he actually kind of had a decent time. But the riffs and the stuff like that really felt like Bennett the Sagey, but then at the same time is like spilling the milk, where he's riffing it on that way. What was it? But yeah, like he's reacting to it in the same way. Oh, I skipped. Hold on. I'm trying to find the name of the title of this new series, which obviously doesn't put in the title of the video because that's not how you do YouTube. Oh yeah, he calls it anime. It was a mistake. Of course, I forgot the title. It was so generic. I'm like, oh, of course, but it's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I like that it's distinguishing it as a new series, and I do really appreciate the framing of this, and I thought it did a decent job of kind of riffing on it. It wasn't like the most amazing, like wow, I busted a gut laughing. I don't really feel that way about Anime Man's content in particular, but that's okay. I still like his approach, and I think it's more measured and less cynical. I feel like it's less cynical overall because I think he does take the good with the bad and stuff like that. And there's a lot of stuff like this, but he doesn't get too bent out of shape of it, and he's kind of spinning it in a positive light. I don't know. I honestly kind of enjoyed it, so I encourage they to make more of that. I think that was pretty good. Mother's Basement with a classic. Why you should never skip Cowboy Bebop's opening. Like, I'm actually surprised he never did this. I could have sworn that he had done this before, but this was like his white whale that he describes it as, and he actually tried. Like he had written a script, and then he was trying to compare it to like Lupin openings, and then he gave up, I guess. And I'm like, damn, okay, which is fair. I feel like it's not really there. Like there may be one opening, like the third. There's 4 part 2 openings, and I think the second or third one, first, second, or third one of those 3 is kind of like Bebop's, but it's yeah, I feel like it's kind of emblematic of a lot of anime OPs. They're very open, like abstract, and giving very simplistic visuals, and sometimes the visuals don't have any relevance to them. They're just kind of like, oh, cool shot, And I do think he runs into that a couple of times. He doesn't seem to squeeze this completely of like, oh, I've gotten every single reference. Like he nailed it in this way. And I do think he missed an opportunity here where there is the Bebop opening that the live action one has, and he does occasionally allude to it and how they managed to suck the life out of this particular OP. The one insight that I thought was really great is that he notes how the live action version moves and kind of completely recontextualizes the shot of, oh, what is his name? Jet. they move Jet's running sequence. They shift it around so it's not at the sting. It's not like it's not at that part. And so there's little things that and I thought that was a really astute point that he made. And I would have wished for more of that personally. I thought that the insight was actually really great, particularly the first shot of like Spike running, and why is he running, and the words coming from the opposite direction. He's trying to get a story and stuff like that. He's on the move, and then he's moving so fast that like when he spots it, he has to stop, kind of like, and he almost passed it in a way. So that's what explains like the skid, and then he's turning around. Like that was actually really smart. I actually thought it was pretty insightful, and that's the stuff that I think he got well known for, really, and his kind of his thing, his shtick. Even though like, and yeah, I don't feel like I don't think he tells jokes as well. I don't think there's certain things that he's not as strong at, even though he likes doing them, which is fine. You can do things that you like and not be as good at them and still enjoy that and still do it. There's no crime in that. But I do think these visual insights are really kind of the cool thing about him. And I was reflecting on it, and I felt like there was actually kind of an indirect inspiration for me when I'm doing my own analysis of stuff, like my guts analysis, not that my character analysis, like when the music track Guts, like, and like analyzing how it's used in all the instances of the show, and like what it represents as a piece of music within the context of the show. That's sort of like really bare figuring, analysis and things like that, and digging and getting to the core of something. I thought is something that I think he does really well, and something that kind of indirectly inspired me. I don't know if I would say direct inspiration, because I was like, I want to be like Jeff. I never had that thought. But then I'm thinking about it, and it's like, it's actually very similar. I actually think I got that, like, just look at the thing and what do you see? What is it? And really think about it, That sort of analysis, I think, is something I really admire from him, and I wish I'd see more of. He's like, I used to cut my teeth doing this, and I'm like, come on, Jeff, you can still do that. There's plenty of OPs, which is fair. I guess it's sort of like a well-worn shtick with him by now. Maybe he's tired of it, and that's fair. But I still think it does great, and I'm happy he ultimately made this, even though I do think there was missed opportunities with comparing it to the live action one, because it can really accent how actually powerful and strong this particular OP is. Although there is another one I just thought I remember watching his video. He seemed to get a little fuzzy about what the eye represent, like the last shot where it's like da 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 da, with Watanabe as the director, and it's just this little like camera lens flaring thing. I thought it was supposed to be Ed. I thought that's representing Ed, because if you look at the previous shots of the OP, when it goes da na, it's Spike's jet, da na, and it's Jet and Faye's machines, and then and so that last piece is Ed, and Ed is like has the kind of the thing with technology and surveillance, and there, Jeff does allude to Ed in places, that the fact that eyes are a motif of the show in general, which is fair. But I think in terms of like the pace of it, they're trying to represent, similar to the shot right before those, the shots of the ships, is like going character by character. Here's Spike, here's Jet, here's Faye, here's Spike, here's Ed, ships, da-na-na. I thought it was a similar thing, but maybe that's interpretations. Anyway, yeah, I thought it was a fun video, and also nicely short. It was actually very refreshing. I was like, it's only 18 minutes. Like for a Jeff video, you know what I mean? You get a little bloated, and it's sometimes I can only for so long, man, because of his like cadence, and I don't know how necessary does the video have. Also, I just thought, I wish he actually kind of really sunk into, besides admiring it, the last shot of like the title card. He's like, the greatest title card in television history, right? That's kind of what he says. That's it, but that's it. He doesn't land on that. I feel like the way that the last shot of this OP is the best part of the OP, in my opinion, at least, where it's just literally just like, and it's, with the, and you're plugged in the episode, you're good. Like, I wish that the video embodied that and landed like boom, because it lands on this kind of quirky thing where I guess one of the art directors, or the art director maybe, of Cowboy Bebop is also the director of the cult anime that he was in. That's the twist of the video, and that's what we were supposed to look for. Like, I don't know. To me, it's sort of unrelated, and it ends the video in a very weird place. A very weird place. I'm like, what does that have to do? I don't know. I was a little frustrated in little places here. Ultimately, though, I'm very happy he finally caught up to that white whale and did it some pretty good justice, I thought. Okay, and now what I thought were the best videos of the week. The ones I thought were like, yeah, that was great. That was cool. And this first one is Ygg Studio. So there were two videos that she put out this week, and the bigger one is that like she didn't hate High Guardian Spice, and it's sort of like just a review of the show, and it pretty much played the way I was expecting, and I did appreciate and like that video. And I would have mentioned it, but I wanted to watch both videos because I thought they're both interesting. But also, this one seemed to tie off of a very brief quip at the end, towards the end of the High Guardian Spice video, and she kind of expounded upon it in this video. And this felt a lot different and kind of cool, and something I would have preferred. I would prefer to talk about a little bit. So I know absolutely nothing about Toho. I heard the name, obviously. And then I can't speak on the trans experience whatsoever. So to the point that it's correct or or any, I don't care. I just thought it was an interesting subject, and the actual craft of the video was really hypnotic and engaging the whole way, because Toho is a bullet hell type game, and the footage used, they really just kind of slap. It almost seemed like a completely uninterrupted clip, and it was just put over Trixie's voice, just plopped it in. And I did think that was a bit of a missed opportunity, where I would have liked to see, like, when Trixie was talking about the character designs of this series and how they're all girls and describing each character. I would have liked to see that. And I actually don't know for sure if like when she was referring to that one canonically trans character, I don't know if the footage I was watching at that time was that character or not. I actually had no confirmation of that. Because again, it was just one uninterrupted thing. I couldn't, and I can get glimpses of what the characters look like within that footage, and so I get an idea, but it doesn't feel as like comes together as a like a video in that sense. But that's okay. Like, it doesn't have to. Like, because honestly, like, it really was just listening to Trixie for 20 minutes, in a script form, which is something there was an adage that she used to have where it's like, if you're addicted to my voice and there's other content and things like that. I do miss that, because it's true. I think there's something about her style of writing and her insights, and just like the analogy she bring. I remember the Packers analogy, and I was watching the video and I was like, I'm not going to be able to retain any of this for diet. What the hell do I say about this? But like, I want to talk, because I want to mention it, because I actually feel really, I just feel really like good about it. I was like, it was really fascinating. I have no connection to Toho and anything like that. But I just thought it was a really interesting idea, very conjecture, and not trying to be generalizing at all, but sort of just like a thought, and just sort of building upon that argument, like very classic persuasive shit, which I've been wanting to do. The video I'm working on right now, half the video is speculation, and it's something it's new territory for me, because it's like I don't, like, one of my big influences is Pause and Select, and it's actually for this Pause and Select thing, so I'm worried about citing things, and I am citing sources in this, but like, it's to a point, it's to a purpose of like a theory, right? And it's difficult, I guess, but it's just like nice to see complete unabashed and just churn the thing out. It didn't feel like, I don't know how many revisions, or if there are any revisions in the script here. It just goes, and I do really admire and appreciate that. I don't know, I just had a nicer time with this one, I think. I think the having to be out of body or whatever, and just like all you're focusing on is the thing, things like that, I just appreciate it a lot. I do think like it could be a better video on a technical level or whatever, and maybe you have like the disagreements with this generalization or whatever, but I just think as like a pure experience of this, like, classic Trixie, and like, what people may have recall from her content previously, I think this was good. And also, it didn't have any shilling, I don't think. The High Guardian Spice one very, very deliberately feels like, I know this is going to get views, so I have to plug my shit where and plug, and also like communicate, because there's definitely, I think she's right on the money on this, honestly, where there's people who are going to click on this video who don't realize all that's been going on with her recently, and how Mayor is a Nazi, and there's a side channel, and the thing. I actually didn't know about the picnic channel. I actually had no idea. I was like, oh, I wonder where that Void Gazer stuff went. I guess they are doing something with that. Oh, it's on a second. Oh, okay, that was just fair. I should check that out because I did like that content. Um, but yeah, fair to plug all that stuff and insert it every so often. But I actually really liked how completely straight train of thought and also she does source people here. It's not complete speculation. I liked that she's reading a lot from this particular writer Alice, I guess, about various aspects of Toho and the experience. Yeah, I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really hypnotic experience. It could be a technically better video in places, but like I still liked it. Abroad in Japan had built a Japanese ramen shop in my apartment. You know, I get it. Abroad in Japan isn't really anime. Like I get it. He doesn't know too much about it, and he doesn't talk about it very much at all, and that's fine. But I still think Japanese related adjacent culture I think is still fine and or warranted on this channel. And also, I mean, there's other videos here that aren't anime but are still by creators in this general space, so I don't feel too bad talking about them, especially if I enjoyed them. I did have a smile on my face pretty much this whole video, and it doesn't have as much of a structure, as it's not as polished as I think one of his other videos and things, but because it is feels like an update video of sorts. But this is his studio tour of this really cool like set that he wanted to use, and I love the first third of this where he's describing his personal frustration with having to film in such a tiny apartment, and he can only film at certain times, and he felt like he was stifling his creative output. And so he had bought this new studio, and he's like, it's fine, but I kind of want to do something kind of cool and interesting. So he commissioned a studio that like a movie set studio that like makes sets for Netflix and stuff like that. Commissioned them to make this whole and I also really appreciated that he filmed a little bit of them making it and giving all the credit to them, giving their name, and also just like, oh, if I tried to make this, it'd be I just thought that was really cool when he says like I built a Japanese ramen, it's commissioned it, but that's YouTube, right? That's how you play a game. But no, I really appreciate he gave all the credit to the people that made it, and it's a great result. I think it's a really awesome set, and I like that he pads the rest of the video out with the different reactions to some of his close friends and collaborators like Connor and Natsuki and his other close friend. I don't recognize him in his other videos, but like that guy had actually really cool insights. He's like, this is impressive. I'm like, this detail right here, and the thing, and but then the others were just kind of like Connor's just riffing on him, and then Natsuki's saying funny English words and being Japanese, which is seems the appeal, and that's fair. The opening skit is actually really engaging and fun, and feels very authentic, and where like the dialogue seems very natural, and I also like the bloopers at the end too. And just a fun video. I smile on the whole time. I know it's not super anime or whatever, but I'm just really happy for him too. That and I'm not like a diehard for his channel or anything. But I've enjoyed a lot of this content that I've watched, and it's always very high effort and polished and stuff like that. And I think this is really great and promising. And yeah, I'm just really happy for him. It's awesome. Yeah, Beyond the Bot had another good video. Graphic designer grades popular anime logos, and we try fixing some. I did I commented on their video being like, hey, yeah, you should make more of these. And they're like, let us know if you want us to make more. And a lot of the comments were like, yeah, you should. Like, it was great. I especially liked the dynamic and the chemistry that the graphic designer had with kind of the host, and the guy, had the idea, and they each have their levels of scrutiny as someone who does this for a living, and then the other one who like is a kind of a layman viewer and things like that. I thought that was really great. And the My Hero Academia thing with the McDonald's is really funny. They're also very critical. They're also incredibly harsh on a lot of the logos. They give a lot of them C's, D's, F's. And I think there's a moment where like there's an editor and like a third person in the call, and they're giving them different logos and stuff, and they give them, it's like, okay, here's some Japanese logos that don't look so good after they were there's very clear bias against the English localization ones, and there's a difference, and they're like, okay, let's kind of find some examples that could turn this around, which I appreciated. And yeah, so it felt a little balanced in that way, but at the same time, it just had really good insight from the designer. I would have liked to see more of the actual fixing part, and like, oh, if they tried this, I think that could be a little more interesting. It's like, oh, is that like finding the localization title of My Hero Academia? The fact that it had two different fonts, I actually had no idea until they pointed it out, and I was like, oh yeah, and then the Food Wars localization, like that's the W from Walgreens, and little things like that. That was just really fun. I just really enjoyed the video a good deal, and hope they make more of it. Sorry that doesn't have as much like a thing to it or insight or whatever, but yeah, that was just raw fun, and I really liked it. Want to see more of it. How do you dub something like Gintama from the Cartoon Cipher? Which, yeah, I appreciated Avi's little side comment at one point that he's just like, I wonder what Shaves will say about this in his digest. I actually, that moment, not just because you name dropped me, but because you reference it, like kind of like doing the diegetic with the Gintama reference, where there's a lot of scenes where it's just the voice actors riffing and they're stalling for time very clearly, and it's just the outside of they're like talking inside the house, but it's just the shot of the exterior shot, so it's obviously a very cost saving technique sort of thing. And I actually really like that to break up the pace of this video, which is otherwise very classic Cipher, and going dub by dub. It felt very similar to the Cardcaptor Sakura video as well. Good insight. They actually got an interview with one of them, the voice for like a voice actor for Gintoki for the second or third dub. I don't remember the second one. The one that does the 2015 series. I thought their insights are great, and I especially like that breaking up in the second third, or the kind of in the second half or so, after they talk about the first three before talking about the finals dub. They just like, how would you go about doing something like this? And it's sort of kind of strange. It felt like a combination of script and them actually talking to each other. And there's some moments where like it doesn't seem like they're talking at the same place, so it seems like a side comment or something they added, and feels weirdly artificial in that way, but it actually felt very engaging, because it's just not something you see on YouTube very much, and also that you don't see in their channel really. Like them being a duo, you do get the sense of that, of course, but I don't remember them having much of a dialogue like this in their previous videos. I actually think there was something kind of cool about that. It reminded me also of this channel that I've been watching a lot more of, Colin and Samir. Let me just double check that's Colin and Samir. They've been doing like kind of YouTube videos. Yeah, really, huh? No, like videos about YouTube, like about other YouTubers and stuff. And their shtick really is that it's both of them, and they're both talking, and there's a nice even balance, I guess. It's not even really like trying to be a contrast or anything. It just feels like they're kind of on the same page and they have the same idea, and they're just uniting to push that same vision, which is very similar to what Cartoon Cipher does, I think, where it's a joint effort. They're working together, and there's a very nice mix of like they're editing and I'm writing, and I'm writing a bit and they're performing, and little things like that. There's a nice mesh there. But I actually really liked the dialogue itself, I guess. I just thought that was really cool and insightful. And again, not simply because they just, at one point reference Digest or anything. Not for that. I actually really liked that. And I also like the transparency as well of how difficult this video was to make, on top of not being this might be the worst time for dubs ever. It was interesting they didn't really weigh on the Squid Game stuff, and it's like, what is there to weigh in on? It's the same shit. This shit never changes. It does feel like they've kind of cracked it, and they've kind of solved it, like not solved it, I guess, but it's like, what else is there, right? And they have to kind of find more examples that are kind of one-upping and particularly strange. so like this Gintama situation where it was done by 3 completely different studios and things like that, and now analyzing kind of the differences and pros and cons of each of them, which is a great video idea, and I thought it was interesting. Yeah, the use of Gintama itself, I will say that my impression of Gintama is, I've seen the whole thing except the very final, because it came out after I finished it. I watched it all in 2018. Like, I watched an episode a day the entire year, because it's about the same number of episodes. And I'm mixed on it, but I did have some nostalgia for it, to be honest with you. I was watching back some of the things, and it was getting me to laugh in some places, and then in other places I was like, yeah, it does that too. Yeah, but anyway, I did enjoy that video, and especially the second half chunk with talking about what do we do here, what's the right approach. You never find anything funny. Like, that was great. As someone who follows Avi and stuff, that was funny. Yeah, and the general snarkiness in the whole video, obviously Gintama like lends itself to that, and you can do stuff like that. But I would recommend doing that more, honestly. Like, a little more maybe potentially abrasive, but very like, yeah, I bet you're gonna hate us in the comments for this one, or whatever. I really appreciated that, actually. I thought that was a really good sense of character for you guys. Not like you didn't have that before or anything, but it was just sort of like a nice added flavor, I guess. Yeah, but I did enjoy it. It was a good job. I'll make this quick, but like the Hazel video, Sonic Adventure is beautiful. I'm a big Sonic Adventure 2 fan. I've only played Sonic Adventure once, all the way through, with just Sonic. I didn't play the other timelines, but I actually beat it in one sitting for the first time. I beat it in one sitting a couple of years ago, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna hate on it or anything like that, but I did really appreciate Hazel's observations and perspective as someone who doesn't play a lot of video games. And it's like, no, I actually love this, and not like ironic, right? It didn't feel like, I love the jank, I love when it's janky. Like, she was actually able to properly articulate what's so fun about it, and the fact that there's no boundaries, and it's broken open, and Sonic doesn't stay in one place for long, because they do all sorts of different things, and really admiring the technical craft on display, despite like a lot of video game critics and things like that. It didn't feel the same way. I just really have liked that, and I always really like her very weird, pieced together, frantic, occasional 5-second like blurb thing that you pause to read what it is, or rewind a bit to see what that said, or something like that. It's a very engaging, arresting kind of video, and like the kind of thing that I don't know if I don't know if Risu is still watching, but this sort of thing where you don't have to worry about talking about a subject piece by piece in an ordered, neat fashion. Just gun it, and if you find a little structure, then you can do that, but don't make it such a big deal with like, now I talk about the story or anything like that, right? Yeah, I think she's doing a great job with this, and I'm also feeling for. I actually remembered. She mentions how like her medical bills are going to be like really bad soon, like next year, and she's really stressed about that. And that was just like a side note and things. Again, it's like it's a very textured, detailed little thing, and some of the personal anecdotes too. There's this a shot that she does in this where she's describing the hotel, or the cheap hotel that she's in from like Vegas or whatever, and like the slow, like some editing thing that she does, I don't know what it was. It was really cool, and I was like, damn. It wasn't even like impressive in like a technical way. It was just sort of like a magician, like, how did you do that? Like, that was kind of cool. That sort of thing I personally really enjoy. Yeah, great video. I really liked it. It was very, very, very fun. And then I think I'm going to put this as the best video of the week, because it really just like blew my dick off. This is a Adult Swim, part of the Adult Swim Festival from 2021. It's this full set from Colin Stetson, who is the composer for Hereditary, as well as the composer for the upcoming Uzumaki. At least I hope that's still the case, right? Like, it hasn't come out yet. but like that was like one of the first staff things that they announced in the trailer from 2019, before pandemic stuff, unfortunately. And so like, and when that trailer had came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I actually happened to get Uzumaki for my birthday, like the manga. And so I listened to the Hereditary soundtrack as I read Uzumaki. Oh my god. I am beyond I genuinely think the music's gonna outpace, like, the visuals look incredible for Uzumaki. I think the art direction, like the actual choices with black and white and how it looks is like unbelievable to me. I'm like so stoked for it. But then I do think the music could potentially outshine the actual material here. Not like, you know, Uzumaki's great. I mean, like the adaptation, I guess. But like, oh my god. And so like this full set and everything, it's 4 tracks that he plays, and they're all fairly long. It's only 4 tracks for 24 minutes, right? And so some of the tracks are very hypnotic and long, and they repeat a lot, and it almost feels like a chore almost. But like, it's because he's trying to put you in like, it's like a trance thing. It feels like a trance, and it was gorgeous. And also it just has a lot of variety. There's a lot of different, like, it feels like blood pumping adrenaline thing, or just horror, or just kind of like what, and just kind of, or sweet sound. I don't know. Like there's variety in these 4 tracks, and it was really riveting watching him play it, because you picture it and you're like, you're just doing this online. You're just like, you FL Studioing it, or I think it feels inhuman. But then you watch him perform it and you're like, oh my god. So like, you know, I think like there is like a backing track of sorts, or there's something else going on in the back. He's not like a one-man band or anything, but like very clearly is playing like the sax, like the saxophone, and there's different saxophones and stuff, like different sizes and stuff. I also really like that he puts the microphone like right on the buttons, where, I don't know if you call them buttons, I'm sorry. They look like buttons. I don't know. Where like the thing that he does. And so you hear the clicks, and that's like percussion. Like that's what he basically has for percussion in here, because it's pretty much just saxophones, and there's no like, it's not like a full band or anything. It's like just echoing sax and like layering on top of each other, and he has it like and it's like, what? I was fascinated, and it was really cool seeing it. And also like when he finishes, he's just like, ugh. Like he's like, it seems like such an enormous like strain on his body to produce these sounds. It's like, oh my god, it was like harrowing almost. And then but then he's like, you know, it comes off and he's just like or like he gets like to, you know, at the end of the set before they move on to the next song or whatever, they cut it or whatever. I was just like, oh, he's so wholesome. Oh, he loves what he does. He's enjoying. It's like the Robert Downey Jr. like, he's enjoying the beauty of his art, or it's like he loves the Guts fucking panel where he's like, I bet he enjoys what he does. I bet he was happy. That's very morbid, but no, it was really cool, and I loved watching it. I wasn't staring at the whole thing the whole time. There was often like, I'm just listening to the music, and I just like go on like Twitter or whatever. But man, that was great. That is the best thing I've seen this week. That was awesome. Go watch it, please. Go listen to it, please. Oh my god. Like, especially when you knowing this is for like Uzumaki and shit, it's like, oh no. It's so good, dude. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.